Thank you. Welcome to Seven Stories August show, Him to Her. This is the point where you applaud. Welcome to the Thanks. If you're visiting us for the first time, I'm Justin, and I'm the executive producer, creative director of Seven Stories. I'm usually the host of Seven Stories, but I'm really excited for this show. This is season 2, episode 1 of Seven Stories. We just did a first season and wrapped up with a greatest hit show in June at Raleigh Little Theater. And this is our first episode of this season. We'll do 7 shows this fall and spring. And I'm really excited about this show because the vision of Seven Stories has always been that we would partner with other communities, other groups, and use the power of stories to affect change and build community. And so I was really excited last April when my friend Rose Higgins, who's an alum of this show, contacted me and said, how would you feel about hosting a show to benefit the inaugural Women's Theater Festival? And we would have 7 women come on and tell stories about being a badass woman. And I said, that is an amazing idea. I love it. And so tonight we are going to do our first show for the Women's Theater Festival. All proceeds, 100%, will go to benefit the festival. And more on that later. And then I get to not be the host tonight, and instead I get to introduce to you the very sublime and wonderful, your first storyteller and your host. Please welcome Rose Higgins.
Okay, hello everyone, and thank you for being here. The great news is, none of us know what we're doing. None of us are storytellers, really. We're photographers, we're singers, we're divas, we're judges, we're lots of things. But so most of the women are frantically back there going, I don't know, I can't say that. So anyway, but we thank you for being here. I wrote my story out like I did last time because I do tend to ramble, and I could be up here for quite a long time. This one knows me up front. But, well, first thing I'd like to do is this. I have to turn around for a second. Somebody start singing Bonnie Tyler. Yeah. Is it Brent? Thank you, Brent. Let me inside you, into your room. I've heard it's lined with the things you don't show. Lay me beside you, down on the floor. I've been your lover from the womb to the tomb. I dress as your daughter when the moon becomes round. You'll be my mother when everything's gone. Woo. I like to sing before I speak because I think it'll make people like me better. I know that sounds really funny, but that's the truth about the imbalance of my what is sometimes crushingly low self-esteem and what is usually my incredibly overblown ego. I, ironically, am a Libra. I'm on the cusp of Virgo and Libra, but Brent tells me I'm far more Librian than I am Virgoian. But I do have that Virgoian first time arounder thing, so sometimes things amaze me, like new flavors of ice cream. So I'm going to read part of this. I'm going to refer to part of this so I don't have you up here all night. This imbalance of mine has been going on a long time, since I was a kid. The first time I remember, we're going to talk addiction a little bit, so woohoo. The first time I remember wanting to soothe my imbalanced feelings was August 16th, I really remember this, 1977, it was the day Elvis died. I was 11 and things were really good in my world, you know? And I just remember everybody was so shitty and sad, and you know, my mom was sad. They were playing Elvis on the stereo. At my house, they never played Elvis, but all of a sudden, Elvis on the stereo. The neighbor's husband was like, whoa, Elvis, you know, just nobody was fun. I'm like, you can't ruin my little kid world because some fucker died. And So I got on my little bike and rode down to the store and bought a Suzy Q. And do y'all remember them? So there was 2 of them in there, which was really nice to start with. But I soothed myself on the day the king of rock and roll died with chocolate cake and sugary filling. And I turned 51 in a few days or something, a few weeks, and so it's been a really, really long time that I've relied on food to soothe this general feeling of imbalance that I have in my life. This is not something that's here 100% of the time. You know what I mean. These things come and go. Food addiction is not sexy. I wish I could be up here and tell you that I was a coke addict and people snorted coke off my boobs at the strip club, but I do not have that story, okay? I hate that bitch on that Hardee's commercial that is like honking down the most impossibly big bite of a burger, because if she actually ate like that, she would look nothing like she does on the commercial. She would look like me. And chicks like me don't get hired to do commercials like that, but we're the ones that really eat like that. So it's like they're wasting their money, isn't it? Somehow. It's absolutely alien for some to think about food and eating as addiction, but that's what it is for me. It's not sexy. There's the Hardee's lady. Cocaine is sexy. Cocaine addiction is horrific. Heroin chic is sexy. Stick-thin models on runways with painted eyes and cigarettes dangling from their lips. They get to be sexy. Heroin is a sexy mistress until she can't get you off anymore. I'm the kind of addict who has put salsa on cornflakes because that's all I had in the house to eat, and that shit ain't sexy. Nor was it tasty. But I ate it. Now, the reason I stand up here tonight and say all this to you in this show, intended to celebrate all that is wonderful about women, is because I was raised by a tribe of exceptional women. There was my high school drama teacher who taught me in 10th grade that every person that walks on stage is a character. A lot of the 10th graders didn't understand that, but I got it right away. It's proved quite useful. There was my sister who lived in Boylan Heights with her husband and kid and always let me stay there when I'd get kicked out of somewhere, and partied and bounced around through my 20s. There was my best friend Vicky, who had her first child at 20, 2 days after I was released from prison. And then she raised me as her second child, but mostly there was my mom, Shirley Jean. This story and this show in many ways is my hymn to her. In April of this year, I attended a meeting about starting a women's theater festival in Raleigh. I was excited and contacted the superhero chick that launched this amazing thing. I told her that I had some monologues intended to be part of a one-woman show, and perhaps I could read 1 or 2 of them at one of the events in the festival. This chick says, "Why don't you just finish writing it and just do the play?" And I was like, what the fuck, what does that mean? People do that? Like you start things and you finish them and but really? What does that mean? I was like, it's 4 months away, what the fuck are you talking about? So I did it, I started doing it. This is April. I also asked my friend Justin if he'd be willing to have an all-women 7-story show in August, and he obviously said yes, and 100% of the proceeds gathered here tonight go to the Women's Theater Festival. Thank you, Justin. So everything's all set, it looks good. I just come off a wonderful run of Sweeney Todd at Raleigh Little Theater, and felt, really. I almost didn't mention that. And I really felt physically better than I have in a couple years. On May 21st, about 3 or 4 weeks into writing the show, my mom died very suddenly. I can tell you without these notes that story. My mom called me at 8 o'clock on Friday morning, May 20th. I am always in the pool at 8 o'clock on Friday mornings, and my mom knows that. It was so weird. I answered the phone. "What's up, Mom?" "I think I had an asthma attack during the night. Can you come bring me to my doctor's office?" "Of course I can." She lives in Sanford. Get my shoes on, drink some coffee, hit the road. I'm there an hour later. When I get there, she's in her chair. Doesn't seem like an emergency, but I can tell that she's uncomfortable. My mom was stubborn, man. I mean, like Irish German, just stubborn. She did not want to ever admit she was in pain. She would I watched her walk through, horrific stuff so she could take care of us. I'm the youngest of 7. And so I said, "What's up, Mom?" She said, "I made an appointment to my primary care at 1 o'clock. And I thought, dipshit doctor. You know, my mom's 80 years old. She's got asthma, hypertension, all these things, and she calls and says, I think I'm having an asthma attack. She's got COPD. She was still smoking cigarettes. And anyway, so I said, okay, she said, we're going to wait till 1 o'clock. She went and laid down and got on her oxygen machine. About an hour later, I heard a noise from back there, and I thought, this is bullshit, she's got to go. I walked back there and sat her up. And she was breathing on her thing, and I said, Mom, does something else hurt? Is it asthma, or, because she just wouldn't tell. She just wouldn't come forth and tell. And I said, do your legs hurt, or does your tummy hurt, or your shoulders, or anything like that? And my mom went like this. Because she couldn't speak. So it spoke, volumes, and I knew she was having one of those like super women heart attacks where you can just sit around having a heart attack. And that's my mom, man. She sat around for about 18 hours having a heart attack. I got her to the hospital, and the last thing we said to each other was real funny in the emergency room before they brought her to the heart center. Two different people had asked her who her primary care physician was, and my mom was getting real pissed. She's like, I'm having a heart attack here, And the third time somebody asked, they asked me, and I was like, oh shit, I gotta ask her. I'm like, Mom, who's your primary care physician? She takes the thing off her mouth. She goes, for the 85th time, it's Dr. Fuller. Like that, and puts it back on her mouth. So I love that's how we wound up. They swooped her away, and she had a do not resuscitate in place, and so we never got to speak to her again. We lost her the next morning, but she was very ill. My mom was an addict. She smoked 2 to 3 packs of cigarettes a day for 60 years. She never drank a bunch, although she came from alcoholics. She avoided that. She had hypertension, diabetes. She was overweight. It was very sad and really hard. My good friends know I struggled just to go visit her. She lived in Sanford, and it was so sad. I felt like I was sitting there with someone who was going to die before their time, and that's how it turned out. Here's the thing: addiction killed my mom. So when my mom died, I couldn't figure out how to do my play. I couldn't figure out how to write at home or at the beach or in the mountains. I couldn't figure out how to talk about my mom in the past tense. I couldn't figure out how to do my show. Did I tell you about my show? Women's Theater Festival wanted to produce my show. I wrote it down, and I submitted it, and they accepted it, and then all of a sudden, I didn't know how to do it. I thought my mom would want me to keep going, and some people agreed, but at some point I realized my mom would want me to take care of myself. So I pulled out of the festival, but I called Justin and told him that I really needed to do 7 stories. I needed to have something, and I wanted to sing a hymn to her. So this is my hymn to her. Shirley Jean, I'm your daughter, Catherine Rose Higgins, your 7th child. I'm an award-winning actress at a community theater that I love with a great passion. I'm a first-rate wife to an exceptional man from an exceptional family. I still crave cigarettes, but I watched them kill you and Dad, so I haven't had one in over 3 years, and I'll be damned if I'll ever smoke another one. I make mediocre pottery, and my friends buy it. When we emptied your apartment, I took your kick-ass Cuisinart, the ruby statue you always wanted me to have, and your bras, because I discovered right there and then that we wear the same size. My mom brought kick-ass bras, I think you can tell. I can still spot a phony from across the room because of you, Mom. My ability to say no is growing, and I'm far less apologetic than I was when I was a younger woman. I'm still singing, and I will, until my breath is gone. I'm about 12 months out from weight loss surgery. I've lost 125 pounds, and I'm glad you got to see me make that radical choice and reap the benefits. I eat like a bird. Most of all, Mom, I'm here. I'm safe, and I'm sane, and I'm sober. The Holy Trinity. Remember, Mom? I do. We're here at 7 Stories to celebrate women. We have 6 extraordinary, intelligent, talented, beautiful women to sing their own hymns to her. So I will get our first one out here. Oh, and I avoided my food journal, aren't you glad? forget? How could I forget? Years ago when I started doing shows at Raleigh Little Theater, there was a couple women that I would be in competition for roles for. And so, you know, it was like the other fat, red-headed white chick was the girl that I was always like, she's not there, or whatever. You know, but this person, this lovely woman I met at Raleigh Little Theater, and we were generally never in the running for the same role. So I enjoyed our camaraderie at Raleigh Little Theater. Always loved her in her roles. She just came out of Mary Poppins Downtown at NC, you know, that theater, that big old theater where they pay you to be there for a while. And Miss Yolanda Raven has just put out her first jazz recording, which has taken her all over the country. The record's called Yolanda, and I think she may have some here for you to purchase. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend and our next storyteller, Yolanda Raven.